And another season upon us. For those that don't know, esto es pase ambidiestro, ambidextrous pass, fútbol honestamente, soccer, football honestly. We all seen the friendlies for all of those fans out there, teams from the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A. For all of those out there that have a team in these leagues and they're a fan of them, there's promise every preseason. It looks like that. And that's the truth. Some clubs left last season being contenders, pushing till the end. They have constructed their team. They have filled some gaps. They have tried to rebuild depth. They are trying to make sure that their teams are set and ready for the season. And that's every time the season starts. That's how teams get ready. Some Premier League fans, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, those teams, they look promising. They always do. But you cannot tell till there has been around 5 to 10 games being played in their leagues. How are they able to function and react with the new signings they have made? But as we know, there has been great show off of talent in preseason, but once the actual leagues start, teams have to take shape. We have had some great signings in all these leagues, the Prem, Serie A, La Liga. Some promising signings, some promising coming up talent, some talent that was already stated 1-2 seasons ago. But they're entering now into a cycle where they have been giving us sparks and they have showed us what they are capable of, and that talent can only get better. And the talent that's coming into us transfer or being, promoted, they are also finding this rhythm to entertain all of us. But preseason games are just preseason games. It does not determine how good your team will do through the season. The season is really long, as we know. The season is long, as we know, and 38 matches. By the time you end and finish the season, you take blows, players are injured, some have left. Many things happen. Many things happen. But that's the beauty of this game. Always have optimism. Always work hard, look forward, and see if you can reach the title or any type of title that is being disputed through the season, from league, European tournaments, domestic tournaments. But that's the beauty of the game that gives us beautiful memories on the field, and at the same time, always, of course, off the field, there's drama. That's just how things are in sport and how things are here, and that's what drives everything in reality. But the global football transfer market is a multi-million-dollar economic engine. As we know, we have seen a lot of amazing transfers for amazing figures nowadays. But this is an economic engine where clubs spend astronomical sums of money in each window to reshape their squads, driven by intense media coverage. Dramatic transfer sagas unfold as players, agents, and executives negotiate high stake deals until the final deadline, which is coming up. And when this is all completed, these strategic new signings can instantly transform teams by filling critical tactical gaps, boosting squad depth, and reviving the club's title ambitions. But we are heading into this 26-27 season in the Premier League and European football season in general. Several clubs stand out across top domestic leagues and European competition due to their squad depth, strategic summer recruitment, and tactical evolution. We're going to hop into the Premier League. The Premier League, we have Arsenal, who won the Premier League in 25-26 season. We have Manchester City, and we have Aston Villa. Those three teams were competing. They did great. They competed for some silverware during the season. They won some silverware during the season. These are competing teams that are very, very dangerous. They have a great squad, but The same way they had players last season that were there, stated, cover gaps, put the team on top. Some players have left, new ones have to come in and seal those new gaps that have been made by departures or loans or just players being sold to other clubs. In the Premier League, we have Arsenal, an Arsenal that they just claimed the domestic silverware and added key summer recruits, including dynamic midfielder Bruno Guimaraes. Mikel Arteta's side boasts one of Europe's most cohesive defensive units and tactical structures, and their press resistance and physical dominance make them top contenders across domestic and Champions League fronts at the moment. They need something else to win a Champions League. The way they played in the Premier League, yes, it worked out, but European football is different. It's a different recipe. Your park the bus, your counterattack has to have a different ingredient to it to go from domestic league to European football. Is different type of equation with different ingredients to make it work, or changing certain things within the equation with different ingredients in it to make it work at the European level. But this Arsenal is coming off from the Premier League winning campaign. The squad strategy is targeted on evolution rather than the overhaul, but one of them is reinforcement on core strengths. Is raising the ceiling in this club rather than just buying backups. Arsenal's primary moves elevate the quality of their starting 11 and their main midfield axis. You have Bruno Guimaraes, who just got transferred for £75 million from Newcastle, a major statement signing. By bringing Guimaraes to play alongside Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, Arsenal upgrade their central progression, press resistance, and physicality in high-stakes matches more than anything. And it turns an already strong midfield into a European most dominant units. Then you have Piero Hincapié, who he was solidified this season. He will stay at Arsenal, and he was acquired for £34.5 million. And securing the Ecuadorian permanently just bolsters an elite defensive line for Arsenal. His versatility on the left back and central defense keeps Arsenal defensive floor exceptionally high and stable at the moment. But they also have some of the covering gaps and departures to just maintain the floor in this Arsenal squad. We have, to see this team, they have to ensure the depth across 4 competitions. We have to see that these teams are competing for 4 competitions, and several moves directly cover roster exits and specific tactical voids. On the attacking rotation, you got Christos Solis for Leandro Trossard. Following Leandro Trossard's departure to Besiktas, Arsenal signed the Greek international Solis from Club Brugge for 40 million euros. And Tosolis provide direct and vertical pace on the goal threat of the left flank without disrupting squad balance. Then, you have the goalkeeping depth too. Ilya Meslier brought into a free transfer alongside Kepa. Kepa's been there, as we know, but this guy, Ilian Meslier, he becomes a backup option to David Raya too, replacing outgoing depth like Carl Hayne that left Arsenal. But this Arsenal is trying to just raise the ceiling and also just cover a few gaps and departures that they had. But these Arsenal teams already look strong, and now they're acquiring some weapons that can either give them depth or just raise the ceiling from where this team was last season, winning the Premier League for the first time in so long. But then when you go into Manchester City, a Manchester City that we know has a great squad, has been dominating the Premier League in the past few years. Yes, they were runners up. They couldn't get all the way. They were in the lead for a few in last season, 25-26, but they couldn't. They just couldn't finish strong. And yes, it's football. Players get tired. So many tournaments. This is why squad depth becomes a very important topic. And getting that and rotating that through the season becomes the very, very main thing to make sure you can reach the end of a lot of the silverware you're fighting for. But this Manchester City, they continue in their high expectation under the world-class core led by Erling Haaland. City remain the metric for squad depth and tactical control. Their ability is to sustain high-intensity league campaigns, makes them also perpetual title favorites. And unlike previous windows focused purely on marginal upgrades, City are navigating an active squad turnover. They're trying to cover some structural gaps and replacing some exits. That's their primary focus. City are actively patching voids left by contract expirations, player departures, and squad restructuring. We have in the central defense replacing John Stones. Following John Stones' free agent departure to Inter after a decade at a club, City just have reshuffled their defensive depth around Jesko, Guardiol, and Kushinov. But in the goalkeeping depth, also replacing James Strasford, who just left to Leeds for £45 million to seek regular starting football. City moved quickly to agree for a deal for Marseille goalkeeper Geronimo Rulli to back up Donnarumma. And why an academy turnover replacing Savinho and depth exits. With Savinho departing to Tottenham is still on the talks. Squad rotations on their way. City brought a 17-year-old talent Jeremy Monga from Leicester City to retain elite long-term wide depth. But at the same time, they are reinforcing core strengths, high impact midfield upgrade in this Manchester City. Alongside covering roster voids, City made just massive statement signings to elevate their starting engine room. And you have Elliot Anderson, who they acquired for £116 million from Nottingham Forest. City's major marquee addition of the summer was Elliot Anderson. By committing a record fee, City just added dynamic ball progression, pressing energy, and box-to-box power to complement their central midfield structure alongside ongoing talks for Lille playmaker Boadi. City is a strong team. City is and was developing, is still developing, because that's football. How can you keep bettering your squad, your team, your play? But this Manchester City now is going through a moment where it's filling the holes, promoting some players, but that's because they don't have Guardiola. But was Guardiola would Guardiola being there, Man City were still going to acquire some players because they let some players go, like important defenders like John Stones. So Man City was always going to trigger something in the transfer market, but now they are looking like one of the favorites because they have a great squad. That is Manchester City. They competed last season, but Arsenal ended up taking it. And at the same time, this Manchester City now has to look ahead with a new manager, maybe looking at a similar project, but probably looking for more depth and just progression on the ball to secure that identity Manchester City has. But now we're going to go to the last team in this Premier League that we believe is going to bring a very, very promising season. They had a really promising season last season 25-26. Aston Villa, they won the Europa League and they were competing for this Premier League, and they are gaining the opportunity to play European football in the Champions League due to them winning the Europa League, but they also ended in the top spot in this Premier League. So they were going to play European football in the Champions League anyways. But we have an Aston Villa that, fresh off the Europa League victory and securing the Champions League place, Unai Emery's side has established a high-tempo transition system. Key additions like Swiss international Johan Manzambi strengthening an already dynamic central race and central core in this Aston Villa. And Aston Villa is trying to cover gaps and direct exits that are the main primary need in this Aston Villa. Villa have had to move quickly to address severe possession voids caused by major summer departures, replacing Morgan Rogers. After selling Morgan Rogers for massively 117 million pounds deal, Villa brought Alejandro Garnacho on a conditional loan for 40 million pounds, with a buy option, of course, for the 40 million. Um, just to replace his direct ball carrying wing threat. In the midfield void, Yuri Tillmans's exit, Manchester United triggered Yuri Tillmans's £35 million release clause. To rebuild their central engine room, Villa brought Joao Gomez for 40 million euros from Wolves and are closing on Joao Palhinha from Bayern Munich to restore ball winning power. They have a left back shakeup, Lucas Digne. He just left. With Lucas Digne moving to PSG, Villa solidify Ian Matassin in their primary starter, while securing Atletico Madrid's Mateo Ruggeri for 19.7 million pounds to cover the left back rotation gap in this Aston Villa, but also the forward rotation. Donian Melen's exit, with Donian Melen completing his permanent move to Roma for 21.6 million pounds. Villa have pursued Chelsea Nicholas Jackson as an additional option up front alongside Ali Watkins, and that brings Ali Watkins into this conversation. If Ali keeps performing the same way he has been performing, Ali Watkins will definitely be going to a new team next season. And these are things that some of these teams had to think about. Look at Morgan Rogers. He had a great season, a very, very, very important player to some of the titles this Aston Villa won. Ends up going to Chelsea. Now they had to fill that gap, and that's exactly what they did by getting Alejandro Garnacho. But then this Aston Villa is also reinforcing the core strengths. They are raising the ceiling on reinforcing core strengths. Alongside covering departures, Emery continues to add elite young potential to raise Villa's overall ceiling across European domestic competitions. You have Johan Mazambi for 60 million euros from Freiburg. Villa primary marquee arrival to the summer. Fresh of starting for Switzerland, the 20-year-old dynamic central midfielder gives Emery elite physical box-to-box presence and tactical flexibility. Then you have Mudu Cisse for 5.5 million euros, a raw high upside defensive prospect added to reinforce central defensive depth for the long term in this Aston Villa. These three teams finished top 5. Yes, Manchester United has been reinforcing themselves, but mostly with players with experience. Manchester United look good. Manchester United does look good. They added players with experience like Tielemans. Why? Because they do need that at the moment. They also need depth because they need players with experience to teach other players that have been in this Man United midfield for 1 or 2 years to start looking at things from a more mature point of view. That's what players like Tielemans are brought to this Man United. Man United has made some signings, but not any major signings like some of these 3 clubs from the Premier League. Manchester City, Arsenal, and Aston Villa. Yes, Chelsea also has made a crazy signing, but Chelsea has been doing this for the past few years. Chelsea has been getting a lot of young talent for a high price, and when results are asked for, they are not delivered. That's what we have seen with this Chelsea. But Manchester City, Arsenal, and Aston Villa are teams that look promising in the Premier League and in European football. This is all for today. Premier League promising. Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa, they look promising, making some adjustments in their team, covering some gaps, and just giving themselves the luxury of acquiring some players. It's only preseason. Some of these teams look good, but actual season is what determines how good your team looked and how good they actually were. But that's all for today. For those that don't know, esto es Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer, Fútbol honestly. And if you don't want to miss anything on Premier League, please like and subscribe. If